The boy who learned to be cool. In a small town surrounded by dusty roads and old tea shops, there lived a boy named Ryan. He was 18 years old, skinny, quiet, and always nervous. Whenever he entered a room full of people, his heart beat fast. He worried about what others thought of him. He tried too hard to impress people, and because of that, nobody really noticed him. Ryan believed that being cool meant wearing expensive clothes, talking loudly, or acting tough like the boys in movies. So he copied others. One week he tried to act like a gangster. Another week he spoke in fake confidence. Sometimes he laughed too loudly at jokes that were not even funny. But inside, he felt empty. At school, there was another young man named Daniel. Daniel was not the richest student. He did not wear fancy shoes. He was not the strongest either. Yet everyone respected him. Teachers trusted him. Friends loved being around him. Even strangers smiled when he spoke. Ryan often wondered, why is Daniel so cool without even trying? One afternoon, Ryan finally gathered the courage to ask him. "Daniel," he said awkwardly, "how do you become cool?" Daniel picked up his bag and said, "Walk with me." They walked through the busy market streets. People shouted prices, motorcycles honked, and children ran around laughing. Daniel suddenly stopped near an old fruit seller. The seller was struggling to carry a heavy box. Without saying anything, Daniel placed his bag down and helped him lift it. "Thank you, son," the old man said warmly. Ryan watched carefully. After walking again, Ryan asked, "What does that have to do with being cool?" Daniel smiled. "Everything." Ryan looked confused. Daniel continued, "Most people think being cool is about looking powerful. Real coolness is making people feel comfortable around you." Ryan stayed silent. That sentence stayed in his mind the entire night. The next day, Ryan decided to observe Daniel closely. At lunch break, Daniel listened carefully when others spoke. He never interrupted. He laughed naturally, not loudly. When someone made a mistake, he did not insult them. He stayed calm even when others became angry. Ryan noticed something surprising. Daniel never tried to prove himself. And somehow, that made him stronger than everyone else. A few days later, Ryan tried something different. Instead of forcing conversations, he simply listened more. Instead of pretending to know everything, he admitted when he did not understand something. At first, it felt strange. But slowly, people started responding differently. One classmate said, "Ryan, you seem calmer these days." Another invited him to join a football game after school. For the first time in years, Ryan felt accepted without pretending to be someone else. Still, he had one big problem. He cared too much about opinions. If someone ignored him, his mood became bad. If somebody criticized him, he overthought it all night. One evening, while sitting near a lake, Ryan asked Daniel another question. "How do you stop caring what people think?" Daniel threw a small stone into the water and watched the ripples spread. "You never completely stop," he said softly. "But you learn something important." "What?" "Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to think about you." Ryan laughed. Daniel continued, "Confidence is quiet. Insecurity is loud." Those words hit Ryan deeply. That night, he stood in front of a mirror. For years, he had hated himself because he was not perfect. He was not tall enough, rich enough, popular enough. But now he asked himself a new question. What if being cool has nothing to do with perfection? The next morning, Ryan changed his habits. He woke up earlier. He started exercising every morning, not to impress girls, but to become stronger mentally and physically. He learned English daily by reading books aloud. He practiced speaking slowly and clearly. Instead of using fake slang, he improved his communication naturally. He also changed the way he dressed. Not expensive clothes, just clean clothes. Proper shoes. A fresh haircut. Good hygiene. He discovered something powerful. Taking care of yourself increases self-respect. Weeks passed. Ryan became calmer, stronger, more disciplined. But life tested him soon. One afternoon, a group of boys started making fun of his old shoes. The old Ryan would have become angry or embarrassed. But this time, Ryan simply smiled and said, "Yeah, they're old. But they still work." Then he walked away peacefully. Daniel, who saw everything, smiled proudly. That was real confidence. Not fighting for attention. Not proving anything. Just staying calm. Months later, Ryan had changed completely. One evening, during a school event, many students gathered in the hall. Music played loudly while groups talked and laughed together. Ryan stood near the entrance wearing a simple black shirt. Something strange happened that night. People came to him. Friends asked for advice. Girls smiled while talking to him. Younger students respected him. Ryan realized he was no longer chasing attention. And because of that, attention naturally came to him. Later that night, he sat outside under the stars with Daniel. "You were right," Ryan admitted. Daniel grinned. "About what?" "Being cool isn't about acting cool." Daniel laughed loudly. "Exactly." Ryan looked up at the night sky. "I used to think cool men were fearless." Daniel shook his head. "No. Cool men feel fear too. They just don't let fear control them." The wind moved softly through the trees. Daniel then said something Ryan would never forget. A truly cool man does 5 things. He respects himself. He respects others. He stays calm under pressure. He keeps improving himself. And he never begs for attention. Ryan repeated those words quietly in his mind. Years passed. Ryan became a confident young man. He spoke fluent English, stayed disciplined, worked hard, and carried himself with quiet confidence. But the biggest change was invisible. He no longer hated himself. One day, a younger boy approached him nervously after a football match. "Ryan," the boy asked shyly, "how can I become cool like you?" Ryan smiled because the question reminded him of his younger self. Instead of giving a long lecture, he simply said, "Stop trying to look cool. Start becoming a good man." The boy looked confused. Ryan laughed softly and added, "Listen more. Learn every day. Stay healthy. Speak calmly. Respect people. And never pretend to be someone you are not." The boy nodded slowly. As Ryan walked home that evening, he realized something important. The coolest people in the world are usually the simplest ones. They do not need to show off. They do not need to dominate everyone. They do not need fake confidence. Their strength comes from peace within themselves. And that peace makes them unforgettable. Moral of the story: being a cool man is not about expensive clothes, popularity, or acting tough. A truly cool man is calm, confident, respectful, disciplined, and comfortable being himself. Real confidence comes from self-respect, self-improvement, and kindness toward others.